Morning, dear students. Welcome back to yet another session of English class. Today we are on the concluding part of the poem, The Lake Isle of Innisfree. Today we are on the concluding part, and after this I will give you an overall view of the poem and some important questions that we need to discuss. So, as we had already been discussing in the previous classes, if you had watched my videos, then you would have come to an understanding as to what the poet is trying to say. That is WBS. He speaks about the difference between the city life, the busy city life, and the happy village life. Busy city life and the happy village life. And you must always keep in mind that this poem is a nostalgic poem. What do you mean by nostalgic? When you think about your past, your childhood memories, your home, the kind of life that you lived, that is being known as nostalgic. So the poem becomes nostalgic here. Okay, Lake Isle of Innisfree, I had already given you an introduction about that. It's a beautiful island, Lake Isle. Isle stands for island. It is a beautiful island of Innisfree. So there exactly is a lake known by the name Lake Gow. Lake Gow. We had already discussed that. It is an island. So this particular lake of Innisfree is the place where the poet was born. So, in the first stanza, we had already discussed the poet saying that I will arise and go to the lake of Innisfree. And he also has a plan. He plans to do something in the island. So, he will go there and he will make a cabin for himself. The cabin would be made out of clay and wattle. And after that, he would live a peaceful life in the cabin. The second point is that there would be many, bean rows. He would plant 9 bean rows. He's interested in the kitchen garden. And he will also make a beehive. And he will get the honey from the beehive, from the bees. He will listen to the buzzing and the drones of the bees. And he would live a happy life there in the Isle of Innisfree. That was the first stanza. And in the previous class, we discussed the poet's inclination to welcome the day. He speaks about the sunrise, he speaks about the fog getting cleared, and he speaks about the linnets, right? And he also speaks about the crickets, many birds, insects, and the natural beauty is being discussed in the second stanza. We discussed that in the previous class. If you want to have an idea, you go back to my video and then you will be able to understand what I was talking about. Now the final stanza, the last stanza of the poem. So what is the last stanza of this poem? You see, the poet says, I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear the lake water lapping. A beautiful line, really beautiful, I must say. If you understand the meaning, you will relish it. What does the poet say in this line? I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear the lake water lapping. Again, you see, the poet uses this line, I will arise and go now, again and again. Now, this tells us that he had a strong desire. He had an inclination, a desire to go and visit his birthplace. That is the Lake Isle of Innisfree. So again, in the last stanza, in the concluding stanza, he expresses his desire, and the desire is that he would rise up, he would stand up and go now. Where would he go? Obviously to his birthplace, that is the Lake Isle of Innisfree. For always night and day I hear the lake water lapping. Always night and day. So why does he want to go there? He gives a reason. And what is the reason? He's getting disturbed. Who is getting disturbed? The poet is getting disturbed. What is the disturbance caused? Why is he getting disturbed? Because in his heart the lapping of the lake water is constantly heard. He is listening to the lapping of the lake water. What is the meaning of the word lapping? Lapping is moving forward and backward. So if you go to a sea, if you go and watch the ocean, the waves of the ocean, you will see the waves coming up, crashing on the shore, and then going back. So if you go to a nearby lake, or if you watch the movements of the waves in a lake, you will see the water lapping. The water comes to the shore, crashes against the shore, and then goes back. So that is known as lapping. I hear the lake water lapping. So the poet is disturbed by the sound of the lake water. The water, the sound, the lapping of water echoes in his heart, and he's restless. Since he's being disturbed by that lake water, movement of the waves of the lake, he says, now I will rise and go. I cannot stay here in this city. I'm fed up and frustrated with this city life. I have to rise up now and go, because I have to listen to that lapping of water in the lake. So, lake, isle of Innisfree. There is a lake. And there is an island in the midst of the lake, probably. So he says, I want to listen to that lapping of water in the lake of my birthplace. So he's disturbed, he becomes restless, with low sounds by the shore. So when the waters come and crash against the shore, they become slow in action. You see, I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. So the sounds become low, okay? They become soft, and he's attracted to that. So the low, crashing of the waves and the great volume created by the waves, okay, they are being listened to by the poet. So he wants to listen to the slow movement of the water, he wants to listen to the great sounds made by the water, and he wants to have a view, a perfect view of that lake. That is the lake which is there near or beside the island or the Isle of Innisfree. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavements grey. So the poet says, I am constantly listening to the lapping of the water of the lake when I stand on the roadway. Where does the poet stand now? He's standing along, or he's walking along a road, or maybe here he stands by the roadside. He very clearly says that. While I stand on the roadway, the poet stands on the road, and as he stands on the road, he sees the movement of vehicles and also to many other sounds. He listens to many other sounds, and as he listens to these sounds, he also listens to the sound of the lapping of water. So he's in the city now. He's not in the village. You have to keep that in mind. While I stand on the roadway, he's standing on the road or on the pavement grey. So there is a pavement for the pedestrians to walk. If you go to big cities, you will see sidewalks. In the US English, they call it a sidewalk. So the main road is there for the movement of the vehicles, and on the side there is a pavement, and that pavement is known as a sidewalk. So here in UK English, we call it as the pavement. In the US English, it's known as the sidewalk. So pavement's grey. Look at this word. Grey. Grey has a very, very significant meaning. And what is the significance of the word grey? Grey means sorrow. In English literature, whenever you come across the word grey, you must always remember, it denotes sadness. Grey stands for sorrow. Now, why does the poet use the word grey? Pavements are of grey color, but at the same time, the poet stands on the road and he feels so sad. A sense of sorrow comes into his mind, and therefore he feels very sad. And the sadness tells him, now come on, don't stand here on the road. Don't be here in the city, just move to your birthplace, that is the Lake Isle of Innisfree. So while he's standing on the roadside, his memories go back to his birthplace, that is the place where he was born, the Lake Isle of Innisfree. So he wants to go, get out now. I hear it in the deep heart's core. So how is he able to hear? He doesn't hear it, no external force, but he hears it within his heart. So the heart is kind of giving him the instruction. The heart says, now go. So since his heart is able to hear the lapping of the water of the lake, he is driven by passion and he is forced to leave the place that is the city and go to the place of his birth, that is the village. The poet is far away but is nostalgic. That is a point to be remembered. He is hundreds of miles away from his birthplace, but his heart is not in the city, but it is there in his birthplace. Now, look at this. Nothing can satisfy you better than nature. You see, nature is the best teacher. That is what Wordsworth has told us. So nature teaches us great values. Above all, nature gives us satisfaction, happiness, and peace of mind. You want peace? Go to nature. Take a walk in the woods. You will have all the satisfaction. Look at the sea, look at the lakes, look at the trees, look at the cascade or the waterfall. Everything that is natural will give you satisfaction. Simplicity is equal to satisfaction. That is another point. The simpler your lifestyle, the more the happiness and the more the satisfaction. That is a point driven, which the poet emphasizes through this poem. Now there are some questions to think about. What is a poet plan? That's given in the first stanza itself. He stands up, he will go to his birthplace, he will make a hut of clay and wattle, he will plant 9 rows of beans, he'll have a beehive, and he will listen to the sounds of birds and insects. That is what the poet plans to do. The second point, lake water lapping. What is the significance of this line? Lake water lapping with slow sounds by the shore. What does he mean by this? When his heart is producing the sound, the lapping sound of the lake water, his mind refuses to stay in the city. So lake water lapping reminds him of his birthplace and he wants to get out from the hectic, busy schedule of the city. And he wants to be far from the madding crowd. City life is a crowded life. It's a mechanical life, full of crowd. You have to live with a crowd. So he wants to be far from the madding crowd. That is what this lake water reminds him. And then you see cabin. He uses the word cabin. I will make a cabin of clay and wattle. So what is this? The cabin reminds him of the simplicity of life. I've already told you, simplicity gives you satisfaction. So here, the cabin which he would build will give him peace, happiness, and satisfaction. So what does the cabin symbolize? It symbolizes simplicity. That's the point to be noted. Bees, birds, and insects, they are all busy in the village, in the island. They are doing their job. And at the same time, they are giving you peace. So all these insects, all the natural objects, trees, flowers, everything, they do their job. Nobody stops them. But each natural object, be it the insect or the bird or the tree or the lake, it gives you satisfaction. It is active at the same time. They promote peace. Village life and urban life. See, the most important point before I close is that the poet draws a contrast between the city life and the village life. So he's fed up and frustrated with the city life and he longs. There is a longing here. You see, he longs for the satisfaction that is obtained by living in a countryside or in a village. So always remember, village life gives you happiness. According to the poet, he emphasized on that point. I love the village where I was born. I love the life in the countryside because life in the countryside is pure, is unpolluted, is always encouraging and always joyful. So he draws a contrast between the village life and the urban life. So with that, I think we can wind up this poem. You might have got some idea about the poem. And I've also drawn some, I've given you some examples, some important points. So go over the poem again and again. Lake, Isle of Mystery by W.B.Yeats. Read all the 3 stanzas, and I will also give you some questions. Try to answer those questions. So stay safe at home, revise, work hard, and all the best.